Welcome and thank you for joining our webinar on GE Centricity front office workflows. If you have any questions regarding the content I am showing, please feel free to submit your question using the chat feature, and if I'm able, I will try to answer during the presentation, and if not, then I will try to cover at the end of the presentation. I would like to start by introducing myself. My name is Allison Bieber. I have been with Ortho Northeast for 9 years, and I have been with DataDrivers for 3 years. I currently work within all revenue cycle departments, assisting in workflow and product development. I also do a lot of reports, and I'm a liaison between the revenue cycle departments and IT. And then I also have experience in all aspects of the front office. DataDrivers was founded in 2013, and we are a wholly owned subsidiary to Ortho Northeast, also known as O&E in Fort Wayne, Indiana. O&E is a 54-year-old company and has been on Centricity since 2002 and EMR since 2006. O&E was like many practices at the launch of our EHR. We were struggling, staff and providers were unhappy, and we knew we had to do something. We went out and visited other practices and learned from them, and we hope that you are able to learn something from us today. As we progressed, we began to realize that we could use our data as a competitive weapon, where we were trying to better ourselves and then make staff and physicians happier. Being able to use Centricity products in a live environment has helped us develop many medical practice solutions. And this is the second of a series of webinars where we will demonstrate Centricity in the medical practice. Many solutions you see can be implemented in your practice with little or no cost. Others can be purchased through DataDrivers, or they may inspire you to find other solutions of your own. Today, we will be covering Ortho Northeast staffing and structure, front office workflows, reports, and then some DataDrivers custom encounter forms. Keep in mind, we are an orthopedic practice, so the content is more focused on ortho, but the concepts may be used for any specialty. I hope you can take something that you see today back to your practice and make it your own. This is something your IT can possibly help you do, and if not, DataDrivers is always here to help. First, we're going to cover staffing and structure. The front office supervisor has 3 main locations to staff, along with 10 outlying satellite clinics. It used to be a struggle to staff all of the locations appropriately, and staffing was based more off of the patient count rather than what the patient would need when they walk through the door. There are approximately 36 staff members at the front office, all cross-trained and rotated through these 4 positions. The receptionist verifies limited information, only the demographics, then scans the insurance card and ID into the chart. They give the patient a chart summary to review all of their health history prior to going back to see clinical, which has sped up the process of reviewing the health history in the exam rooms. Then they alert registration or clinical of the patient's arrival. Registration is not only completing demographic insurance information, but they're also collecting health history, the pharmacy, and then reason for visit information, all in the EMR, and they're doing this for all new patients. This has freed up the exam rooms for the providers to see patients. Cashiers collect copays and balances, and also set up payment plans and schedule follow-up appointments. And then customer service completes disability and FMLA paperwork, work slips, and handicap placards. And they also serve as a liaison between the patient and clinical staff. Next, we're going to talk about how we are proactive in our practice. As I was saying earlier, something we struggled with was not knowing what kind of patients would be coming through our door today. We needed to know not only how many patients we were going to see, but also the individual needs for each patient and appointment. We were able to accomplish this by using the appointment status within the appointment module in CPS. Each status has a specific process that must be followed when the patient shows up for their appointment. By creating these statuses and processes, we were able to be proactive, automate workflows, and then track the appointment duration as well. As you can see here, we have associated a color for each status, and then I will show you later how that has been helpful in our practice. By utilizing a SQL script and then creating a hierarchy for the statuses, we were able to automate this process where we were in the past manually reviewing every chart prior to the patient's visit. So we created rules for each status, like no insurance entered or an empty date field. And then we were able to determine which status the chart should be in and then run the script in order of the hierarchy. So we were able to save a full-time staff member by utilizing this process, and then front office staff are now able to take on other duties in their downtime. As you can see on that report there on the right, 563 appointment statuses were changed in one day across all locations. So we can now run reports based off of status and then obtain any information needed by insurance, like an authorization, prior to the patient coming into the office. Here I have two examples of those reports. The appointment status with insurance report is ran in downtime by our registration staff. The insurance companies that don't do online eligibility, they still require a phone call to verify the patient's eligibility. So staff, they can run this report and know which patients they need to obtain eligibility information on. The pending auth report is used to inform us which patients have an insurance carrier that requires an authorization. So then we can call ahead and obtain the authorization prior to the visit. And these are both crystal reports that we created in CPS. Here we have some automated staff work lists. We use the eligibility exception report there on the bottom to catch any inactive or unverified eligibility prior to the patient's appointment. We also have a report there in the middle that catches any same-day insurance entry that had eligibility issues. So we try to catch claims before they get to the billing office. So another report we use to avoid the claim stoppers is that top report there, which is the future date of illness. So here at O&E, we notice once we get into a new year, every year we see this issue in registration where they tend to put that future illness as like November 2017, for example. So again, by utilizing SQL, we are able to pull specific data, the exceptions that we want to see, from CPS and then display it in Excel that's beneficial to us. We also have emailed reports that are sent to staff daily so they don't have to remember to run reports. The pre-cert Medicaid patients report there on the left is sent to staff so they know which Medicaid patients need eligibility check the date of the patient's appointment. And then the front desk staff also gather the injections for the clinical staff on a daily basis, and they use the injection appointments report there on the right to get the patients that will be needing an injection. The report is based off of specific verbiage placed in the appointment notes. So, for example, you'll see Suparts there on the top and Orthovisc on that second line. So we were printing off paper crystal reports, and then we were looking through every single patient on the schedule and looking through their appointment notes to find these specific injections before we found this new process. Some additional emailed reports that are more informational. The today injection appointments on the left there, that's an email that lets us know if there were any add-on injections that need to be pulled for clinical after that initial report was sent. The pending office auth report there in the middle, that's another email, lets us know where we are with obtaining office authorizations. And then as you can see, we have our three main locations there on the bottom, Southwest, North, and Clinton. And then the today's open evening appointments there on the top right lets us know how many openings we have for tonight's evening clinic. This is another emailed report that is sent to the supervisor on a daily basis. Earlier I had talked about the colors being associated with each status. So by utilizing the status and the color associated with the status, we are able to see exactly what type of patient load we can expect on any day, at any office, at any time. As you can see, the North office there on the second line has 60 updates in the AM, and you can see how those are dispersed throughout the morning by referencing that graph there. The purple and peach colors we'll need to see we'll need to see registration, where the pink color can go straight back to clinical. So the clinical staff, they can reference the colors on the PM schedule and see what kind of patient flow they may have throughout the day as well. Next we'll cover some workflows for patient check-in. This is our on-time board, which is a custom web page, and this is just on a TV screen behind each receptionist desk at each location. The patient is able to see the status of their provider when they walk in for their appointment. So using benchmarks in the system, we were able to calculate the backlog in the clinic, and then we can display that information to our patients in the lobby. And then this system is completely automated, so staff go through their typical workflow, and the on-time board will show the appropriate time status for the provider based on the provider's schedule in CPS. So this has been a huge patient pleaser in our practice. The patient, when they walk in, they know that their provider is behind, then they can get comfortable and get their book out or get on the internet or whatnot. We also use a patient check-in kiosk, and we're seeing about 20 to 30% of our patients using the kiosk. So when we were shopping for a kiosk, we couldn't find a vendor that offered both demographic and health history information for the patient to review. So as I mentioned earlier, we have our patients review the health history prior to seeing clinical staff, again, to free up those exam rooms. So we decided to create our own software to meet all the needs in our practice. So DataDrivers patient check-in kiosk offers both demographic and health history information. And then it also automatically alerts the appropriate staff of updates that the patient indicated on the kiosk. And then the kiosk also is driven by the location, the appointment time, and then the appointment status. So patients can't check in at the wrong location or at the incorrect time. They can't come late. And then the kiosk asks the appropriate questions based off the patient's needs for that appointment as well. So if you have somebody coming in to see your physician versus a physical therapist, you might have a different set of questions that each patient needs to answer. So with this kiosk, it has made it possible to see more patients and then schedule fewer receptionists. When patients don't want to use the check-in kiosk, they can see a receptionist still, of course. So this is a custom web page both our receptionist and registration staff use. We have integrated buttons right into CPS for easy access. So the Express Check-in offers alerts if the patient is late for their appointment. So as you can see there in the red, right under the patient's name. Also, you will notice the box that is blue with appointment information. That color is based off of office location. So if you're at the Clinton location and see blue all day and suddenly you see yellow, that patient is at the wrong location. So this was a big issue for us having multiple locations and seemed to really cut down on that problem that we were having. The small icons on the top right corner are quick buttons, so staff can easily print the chart summary from EMR with never actually accessing EMR. And then they can also reference some information needed. So, for example, like our top 100 referring physicians document, they can quickly access that if they need to. We are chartless in our practice and communicate through EMR flags and email alerts at the front desk quite often. So we were going into EMR and manually typing the flags sent from receptionist to registration. So the express check-in button has allowed us to work out of CPS only and then still communicate through EMR. So the text on the bottom left corner is quick text. So we can add that text to the EMR flag that is sent over to registration. And then they also have the option to add free text to that EMR flag if there's some additional information they need to let registration know. And then once they click that send to registration and ready for clinical button, that alerts the appropriate staff the patient is ready for them and then changes the appointment status in CPS, which documents the patient's appointment activity. On the bottom left corner there, you can see Clinton Registration User Desktop there in EMR. Our registrars monitor this desktop, and that's where they're pulling those charts from. So once the patient is called to registration, the registrar will document here in the check-in button that the chart was updated and that the financial interest was signed. The financial interest is just something here required in Indiana by state law. They will also document with registrar so we can track how long the patient was with registration versus how long they were in the lobby. So using the express check-in button has taken our check-in process from 13 clicks down to 3 and has also error-proofed the process, which makes for happier providers and patients. This is another custom web page we use at the front desk. This will catch any patients that have been arrived longer than 20 minutes and have not been addressed by a staff member after check-in. This also alerts us of any possible no-shows, so we can double check they are not in the office before no-showing their appointment. This is something staff can access at any time, but it also sends all staff an email alert when a patient appears on this dashboard. So down on the bottom there, you can see the 2 emails that staff receive. The last thing I'm going to cover for check-in is the patient's history screening. Our front office staff complete all of this information for all new patients. We are trying to find any way we could free up the exam rooms, as I mentioned earlier, and then keep the doctors seeing patients. So this was a way for us to do that. So these are some of the visual cues we hand to the patient, and you're going to see how these kind of flow with our history screening EMR encounter form. So we create our forms to try to make it easy for staff to do the right thing. And just as a side note, our registrars are entry-level staff and they have no medical background. As I mentioned earlier, registrars complete this form for all new patients. Anything in red is mandatory. You will notice scripting on all the tabs for staff and easy lists, so we don't have to worry about misspelling. We've also built in quick buttons to communicate with clinical, and then created a common medication list to quickly add medications If surgery is required, we do enter additional medication information at surgery scheduling. More drop downs to enter conditions here. This here is a list of common orthopedic surgeries. Again, it just makes it much faster and easier to enter those surgeries. These are non-orthopedic surgeries. Family history. The red button autofills everything to no, and then you can change answers to yes if they are applicable. And social history, the form does ask questions based off of the patient. So if this patient was disabled or retired, you would not receive the work questions. Same with tobacco. If patient was under 13, then this question would not appear. If patient was over 65 or had Medicare, then the fall questions, pneumonia, flu shots questions would appear. This is review of systems. And the reason for visit, it's all subjective information. Again, anything in red is mandatory. And then as you can see, while questions are answered, more questions populate. And then once registration has answered everything they need to, the Save Case button will appear. And then clinical will pick up where they left off in the back. These pain questions, they are required for pain patients only in Indiana. So this is just to let you know the form can be set up to only appear for certain questions for certain providers. And then this is just a summary of everything that was entered. So we would go ahead and place this on hold, and clinical staff will open in the back once they call the patient. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to patient checkout. We also use a custom web page for checkout. We wanted to bring all of the information we needed to review into one place. So staff can view their financial tab billing notes pulled straight from CPS. They can view the global period date so they know if they need to collect a copayment. They can see the copayment amount, the patient balance if there is one, along with the last patient payment date and amount. Staff can use the quick buttons in the top right-hand corner to reference billed charges. They can send an email alert to customer service, or they can let the billing department know there is a patient that will be calling from the video phone to discuss their balance. We have added quick text to add notes to the financial tab billing notes with one click down there on the left side. Staff can also free text in the billing notes, and the checkout button will add the staff member name and then date stamp the notes that are added as well. We require our cashiers to ask every patient about their visit. So this question is mandatory, and staff cannot continue with checkout until the rating has been completed there on the right bottom. An automated email is sent to the front office supervisor anytime a 1 or 5 rating is chosen, along with the comment that was associated with the rating. So with this information, we can follow up with unsatisfied patients if we need to. Express Checkout also pulls pertinent information from EMR. So on the bottom left corner down there, we add follow-up appointment information to the orders module in EMR and then display that information in the checkout button so cashiers can reference when making that follow-up appointment. Typically with physician referring to physician, they don't always know the other physician's scheduling preferences. So we've also added a quick button down there on the bottom right corner so staff can quickly choose their physician and go reference those physician scheduling preferences before making that appointment. Express checkout is set up to inform staff when to ask the patient for a payment plan as well. So the payment plan button right over here will only appear when the patient meets certain criteria. For example, a $300 balance or more, they aren't currently on a payment plan, and has received a statement in the last 30 days. That's the criteria we set here. This also is mandatory, so the cashier cannot continue with checkout until that payment plan information is complete. So once you click into that payment plan, the cashier can see the patient balance there and then calculate that monthly payment by clicking on that 3, 6, 9, or 12-month payment options. And then once that monthly amount has been agreed upon, the cashier will set up the next payment date, and then this information is sent over to the billing department by clicking on that Submit to PBR Print Payment, and then that letter is printed for the patient's records with all that payment information on it. This is something we created after having issues with inaccurate handwritten appointment cards. This is a crystal report that is printed from the CPS schedule, and it has the ability to alert the patient of a different location if they are used to being scheduled at a certain location and that suddenly changes, and then also includes all the additional upcoming appointments. And next, we're going to cover a couple things for our customer service. I wanted to show you a couple more of the custom encounter forms we use at the front desk. This is the automated disability form we use. We attach this to the original form and have found that about 99% of companies accept it. The form has the ability to pull previous values based off of the body part that is indicated in the form. So this allows information to be entered once, and which is a huge time saver. And then any additional information can be added or changed, like the next appointment date, return to work date, or dates of service. The automated FMLA works in the same way. We are able to pull previous values through, in which allows us a 48-hour turnaround on our forms. We have found using these forms has allowed us to complete about 500 to 600 forms per month, and we're only using 2 staff members to accomplish this, so we're pretty happy with that. These documents are also housed in EMR for for easy access for any department, so that's another thing we really like about the form. There's no scanning required. We're going to go ahead and cover some managers tools. This is another custom web page that our staff use. The help button has, as we call it, has been integrated right into CPS, just like the Express Check-in and Express Checkout buttons for easy access. The staff can quickly and quietly call for help from other staff members if their line has gotten too long. So by clicking on the specific location, they are sending out an email that goes to all the front office staff, and that alerts them that a staff member over here needs some help with their line. So as I mentioned earlier, that all of our staff are cross-trained into those 4 positions, so it makes it possible to use a tool like this. So staff may also, oops, I just need to backtrack for a second there. Staff may also use this to alert customer service and then the patient billing rep of a walk-in patient that needs assistance. Then they can add additional information to that email alert by typing in that free text field there on the bottom. So now we can go ahead and move on. So this is an example of the help email alert that is sent to all staff when the help button is clicked. The report is to inform the front office supervisor of the counts for each staff member of how many times that help button is clicked. So she's able to tell if a staff member consistently has lines or needs help, and then we can adjust staffing or plan for some additional training if the staff member is struggling. This is another web page that is embedded in CPS. The appointment activity log gives you quick access to the activity log information in CPS for all appointments. So you can quickly tab through each appointment and view the appointment activity without going through the many steps to access this information through the appointments module, which is opening the schedule for each individual appointment and then viewing the appointment activity. Because you know we all want to know who made that appointment. This is a crystal report we created to monitor patient appointment duration. Typically, when the doctor's office flow isn't going the way he wants, the front desk is questioned first. Why aren't we getting the patients back in a timely manner? So the front office supervisor, she no longer has physicians knocking on her door due to this report. You can see the duration of the patient's stay at the front desk by using those statuses I've referenced throughout the presentation. From when that patient arrived, how long they were with registration, to how long they were waiting in the lobby before clinical called them back. The front office supervisor has many reports she uses for continuous quality improvement, or CQI. So these reports are checked monthly, and then we use them annually for staff evaluations. And then we're able to tell if staff may need retrained or removed from a position altogether. So the report on the left shows you copays missed by day. So as you can see, even though we collect after the appointment, our missed copayment rate is pretty low. So this can help us determine adjustments to workflows as well. And then the duration minutes with registrar report there on the right shows us on average how long it takes each registrar to register a patient. And then this is an example of a report we use to track staff productivity. So this is just showing us how many payment plans each staff member has set up for each month. And then we can also tell if payment plans being set up in the office has been a successful workflow change for us. So these are just a few examples of the many reports that we use, custom web pages, and then encounter forms. So if you're interested in seeing how we use DataDrivers solutions throughout other areas of our practice, don't forget to sign up for future webinars featured in this series. We will be having pre-certification coming up here, or you can also visit our website. It looks like we do have a few minutes for questions.